Hello, welcome to the original Loretta Brown Show radio to open the heart, heal the soul, and awaken the consciousness.
We're wide open now.
We're wide open now. Yeah, thanks for waiting for us this morning. We have a wonderful guest, and sometimes we just have a little bit of preparation.
Yeah, we've got to do a dance behind the scenes, too. It all works. We got it all connected. We're working.
We're good dancers, by the way.
We do. We work really well.
Benny, by the way, amazing. Better than an octopus.
I should have like a heart monitor on me sometimes just to see what it's impressively beating at.
Yeah,
versus
it's like boom, 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 boom.
Although my doctor says it's pretty healthy, so that's good. Yeah. I guess it's maybe I'm working out by sitting down at the same time. You should see myself. I'm not stressed out, but there are moments.
Well, they say you can, like if you think that you're running and you really get into it, you can raise your heartbeat in a few. Relax and exhale. Right, the other way. That's right. So thanks so much for tuning in. You're going to be so glad you did. I am Loretta Brown. I'm the owner of Reiki Oasis, located right here in the greater Seattle area. We're in our 22nd year in business. And I want to let you know you can sign up for appointments and workshops and everything wonderful at schedule.reikioasis.com. And for those of you that don't know, I have a new assistant, Sherry Morris, and she is actually specializing in Reiki for animals. Reiki for animals. And so if you want to do appointments for Reiki for animals, you can find her at schedule.reikioasis.com. And when you go to that place, you just pick her name, Sherry, and make appointments with her. And if you want to make appointments with me, of course I'm there, a couple of months out. We have a Reiki Masterclass coming up on June 10th. For those of you that are ready for that, it's going to be a great class. Reiki 1 is on June 24th, and the Temple of the Divine Feminine is June 17th. You can go to ReikiOasis.com and sign up for the newsletter to get more information about wonderful classes. And for those people that came out to the Crystal Bowl concert last Sunday night, thank you for coming. It was a nice group of people. There are more of those concerts to come. And we do know about the healing power of sound, and I firmly believe in it and support it in every way that I can, not only as a professional musician, but as a Crystal Bowl concert person. So thanks for coming out. And those, once again, just keep watching for announcements on when those will be coming next. We are a listener-supported show, and a big shout-out to my patrons who support the show. I am ever grateful to you because this is live radio, as you guys know, if you're listening on your radio station. And the shows are all archived. You can download them for free at the archives for KKNW or thelorettabrownshow.com. So, without further ado, because I want to bring my guest on, I want to ask you a couple of questions. Do you ever wonder about the origin of humankind? Do you think that everything you've been told is the truth? Or is it fake news? I don't know.
Hey,
stop
chocolate
that.
cake. I love chocolate cake. Best chocolate cake ever. Huge. So huge. I got to work on it. But
Yeah, it was good,
I think
actually.
people know where I'm going with that one. Huge.
Well, for those of you that have, you got to have the emotions with it, and Benny's got the emotions going. So, yeah, where did we really come from, Benny? Yeah. Do we currently have, or have we ever had contact with alien life and just what's happening on planet Earth? Last week I had the amazing Dr. Carmen Bolter, who is a female Indiana Jones, and today my guest has become an international authority on the origins of humankind and the vanished civilizations of southern Africa. And Michael Tellinger is my guest. He is a scientist, an explorer, has become a real-life Indiana Jones for the last 30 years, and the author of 4 books, Slave Species of the Gods, Adam's Calendar, Temple of the African Gods, and Ubuntu, Contributionism. Michael's also founder of Ubuntu, the liberation movement coming out of South Africa, which I am fascinated about and a firm supporter of. And Michael can be found on Gaia TV in his series Hidden Origins. And honestly, he's on been on too many guest shows, as a guest on shows to name. And so without further ado, because we only have this 1 hour to cover so much information, I'd like to welcome Michael to the show. Hi, Michael.
Hello. Loretta, lovely to hear your voice.
It's lovely to hear yours. You have an accent.
I do have an accent. I have a very strong South African accent, I believe.
Is that what it is? I probably have
Yes.
an accent to you, so that's how it goes, right? Yeah.
Yeah, well, I've traveled the United States so much over the last 8 years that I've become really accustomed to the different pleasing sounds of the accents from the different corners of the USA.
Well, I love voices and I love sound. I'm a sound practitioner as well as a musician, and I know that's going to come into our talk today. But I understand that you're on your 8th annual North American tour, and you're currently
Yes.
in the middle of it.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, we just finished our 3rd event here in Irvine, just south of LA, last night. We started out, actually, it was a 4th event. We started out at Contact in the Desert, which has become a huge annual event of people, scientists, explorers, researchers, from people like Graham Hancock to Eric von Däniken, Robert Bauval, David Wilcock, Jim Mars and Laura Eisenhower, and so many incredible researchers that come together for a weekend at Contact in the Desert. And that's normally my springboard for a North American tour after that.
That's great. And your tour is going to, I'm just putting in a plug for you already, the tour is coming through Seattle as well
Yes.
as many other places in Oregon and California and Washington, even up into Vancouver, BC. So
Yes.
I really highly encourage people to get online. And I want to put a shout out to Neil Gar and Portal to Ascension, who is promoting all of this and helping you through this tour. So what is the name of this tour? What is the purpose of it?
Well, it's a continuation of my work and exploration and research, which deals with the origins of humankind and the murky and obscured origins. And so therefore it's called Hidden Origins, named after my TV show on Gaia TV. Hidden Origins, and exploring the nature of our reality, which is really looking into a deeper understanding of science, the nature of reality around us, and what we've been taught, and how most of what we've been taught is not necessarily true. In fact, if the deeper we look into it, the more we realize that pretty much everything we've been told is a lie. And dealing with that reality and at the same time sharing critical information about the origins of humankind, the lessons we've learned from ancient civilizations who were highly advanced, and that's, I guess, my contribution to the world of archaeological research, providing the physical evidence that the ancient civilizations were highly technologically advanced. They were not cavemen living in primitive situations. And learning from what we learn, learning from the experiences of the ancient civilizations and putting it to good and positive use for humanity today. And that, as you mentioned earlier, is really the work of the UBUNTU movement. UBUNTU being an ancient African word for unity within community, people working and living together for the benefit of the entire community, with supporting each other instead of competing against each other. And that has just grown into a global movement that has completely taken me by surprise, because it seems that everyone everywhere, no matter what country you live in, seems to be equally miserable and dissatisfied with what is going on in the world today.
Yeah, I'm listening to that. You know, how are you doing with the progress of that movement, by the way? You say when did it start? And let me back up a little bit, because I get excited when you start talking about that movement, because it's so radical. You know, it's changing everything. Let's back up just a little bit. Tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get into all of this? And you know. Yeah, how did you get into all of this?
Well,
I've got too many questions for you, Michael.
I know it's a fascinating thing, you know, how we end up in the careers that we end up in. If somebody asked you, how did you end up where you are today? We are the sum of all our experiences, and everything I've ever done in my life has really prepared me and is the foundation for what I do today. And I'm able to draw on the many experiences that I've had in my life, and I've done many things. Unlike some people that get stuck in a career and stay in the same job for the rest of their lives. And I would like to really encourage those people to start thinking about diversifying and doing something with your life, because you have this one life and you can't be a slave to a corporation and then retire and die a few years later. That's not why we are born. So I got into this by a sequence of coincidences, I guess. I studied, I was a musician for many years of my life, and for the first 28 years of my life, I believed that I would be a musician forever. I grew up in a musical family. My mother was an opera singer. My father was a mining engineer, and I started playing and performing music from an early age. And I went to university, studied pharmaceutics at medical school at Wits University in Johannesburg, graduated there with a Bachelor of Pharmacy degree in 1983, and then started realizing that everything I was told is not necessarily what I think it is, and had to start researching and learning from scratch. And realized that there's a huge body of information from scientists and researchers that are not necessarily connected to tertiary educational institutions, and started discovering a world of infinite possibility and information that goes beyond our world, beyond our space, and deeper into our cellular structures as well. And started discovering things that started to shake my own belief system into who we are as a species, where we come from, and why we are here. And then I discovered the ancient civilizations of Southern Africa, and I wrote a book called Slave Species of God, which is then called Slave Species of the Gods by my publishers here in the USA. And that book has now been translated into, I think, 5 or 6 languages, and has become a real, I guess, foundational work for many people that start exploring these areas of knowledge. And it's very obvious to us that, you know, we're a species that was deeply manipulated, and part of my, throughout for thousands and thousands of years, on so many levels that it boggles the mind. From genetic manipulation to spiritual and psychological manipulation, and specifically our slavery system, which is controlled by money and the financial and the socio-economic system that's been imposed on us, on all of humanity. And I guess I was very fortunate to be in South Africa and being right there to be able to discover and share with the rest of the world the vast vanished civilization of Southern Africa. Because if you look at most of the ancient civilizations, from the Egyptians to the Sumerians to the Mayas, the Olmecs, the Phoenicians, the Dravidians, and so forth, the Incas and the pre-Inca civilization. The one thing that they all have in common is gold. They're all obsessed with gold. Mm-hmm. But the other thing that they all have in common, that they all, and all these ancient structures and these giant megalithic structures, all seem to be in the northern hemisphere, either in the northern hemisphere or clustered around the equator. Very little of consequence or significance has ever been uncovered in the southern hemisphere or deep south, until I started sharing the vast, and I mean vast, vanished civilizations and the stone structures and the ruins of the civilization in South Africa, Zimbabwe, mostly those 2 countries. And that suddenly put a spotlight on Southern Africa as a place where there was great activity going on, much further back in time than any other place on Earth. And so my expose of the more than 10 million, and this is, please pay attention here, right? More than 10 million circular stone structures that lie scattered throughout South Africa and Zimbabwe, some parts of Botswana and Mozambique.
I have to interrupt. Did you say 10 million?
10 million.
10
yes.
million.
Now, this is not a small thing, Loretta. This is a big deal. This is a big deal that you can't just wipe away or pretend it's not there.
Well, I'm sitting here thinking, you know, because I've been to Egypt a lot and all over the world, and And, many people do talk about these ancient sites like you say, in the northern hemisphere or right around the equator. So these stone ruins in Africa are a big deal, if I understand you correctly, and they're much more ancient.
Yeah.
Eric von Daniken, in his book Chariots of the Gods, he talks about, ancient astronauts who came to Earth and that possibly we're descended from them or creations of them. And I think, Zecharia Sitchin also, in his 12th Planet and the sequels, he talks a lot about ancient astronauts and the Sumerian tablets and the Anunnaki. Are there connections with any of this for you?
Absolutely, and I think this is why it's such a big deal, because even though much of what Zecharia Sitchin has written may be misinterpreted or misinterpretations of the original Sumerian text, I'm not saying that everything he wrote is 100% accurate. However, he did lay a very solid foundation for us to rethink our origins, and I believe that what I present with the vanished civilizations and these vast number of structures in southern Africa is the physical evidence for what Zecharia Sitchin wrote about, especially about the gold mining activities in southern Africa, or as he calls it, the Abzu, which I have now discovered and share with the world the incredible gold mining activity that's been going on in South Africa and Zimbabwe. It goes back 300,000 years and beyond.
Why gold? We talk about gold on the planet, and everybody's like, "Oh, gold, right? Why gold?"
Yeah, look, that is a big question and a long debate, and I'm open on that subject, and I keep shifting my perception and perspective on that, and I'm beginning to think that the Anunnaki or the Anunna gods that the Sumerian texts talk about extensively. And this is, again, we need to stress this for your listeners that may not be that familiar with this. This is not just some accidental or a quick mention of some beings in the Sumerian text. This is an ongoing, repetitive narrative or theme, central theme of the Sumerian civilization are the Anunna gods, or the Anunnaki, as Sitchin calls them, the gods of heaven and earth, who came to earth, installed the first royal bloodlines, and there are Sumerian texts that clearly tell us at which point kingdom was lowered from heaven to earth, and the first priest kings were appointed from among the people to rule over humanity. These are serious insights into how our society and civilization unfolded and evolved and got structured and controlled. Specific emphasis on that word control, because to try and understand where royalty comes from, or royal bloodlines come from, is actually a very difficult thing for anyone to do. If you just think about where did the first kings come from? How come they became king? Who made them king? Did they appoint themselves? Did they just wake up one morning and say, well, we live in a lovely little village here in the community, and I have some news for everyone. As of today, I'm going to be your king. All the land's going to belong to me. You're going to work for me, but in return, I'll pay you this thing called money, and then everything is cool. Isn't that a nice idea? How would people react? How would people react? They say, no, sorry, buddy, go away. They chase you out of the village or out of your town or community. So the whole concept of royal bloodlines is a very strange one indeed, and not many people think about it. We just accept it because that's how it's always been. And the Sumerian texts very clearly tell us at which point and the conditions under which royal bloodlines suddenly appear, and they were appointed by the gods, these beings that came to earth in their quest for gold. And so this is a big story. The gold was most likely used as some kind of a drug in its monoatomic form, its monoatomic state. But I think it goes a lot deeper than that. It's to do with consciousness. It's to do with levels of consciousness, and we inherited our obsession of gold from the gods, from the Anunnaki. It's not a human obsession, because the gold never belonged to the humans. The gold, whoever the explorers from the 1400s onwards, whenever they landed somewhere in the Americas or in Africa or in Asia, they found civilizations that always had huge amounts of gold. And so it was a global obsession by humanity. And all the ancient cultures that the Spaniards and the Portuguese and other explorers met were always told that the gold belongs to the gods. And today we forget these things, and we assume and we think that, oh, these are just stupid people. They didn't know what's going on. No, they knew exactly what was going on, and they didn't dare claim that it was their gold because they knew what the consequence was.
Yeah, I'm following what you're saying, and I'm sort of being with how, this, what you're talking about is a long time ago, like thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago, and how that has come through to our culture today. And we will get to, we're going to take a little commercial break here in a minute. When we get back, I want to talk more about what you have found in South Africa. And then we'll move into the Ubuntu liberation movement and what that really means. So for my listeners, this is the Loretta Brown Show. And my guest today is Michael Tellinger. And please don't go away. Come back. We'll be right here. Welcome back to the Loretta Brown Show. And my guest today is Michael Tellinger, and he is an author of 4 books, a scientist and explorer who's become a real-life Indiana Jones, and he is the founder of the Ubuntu Liberation Movement. He's on his North American tour right now. And for those of you that would love to see him in person, which I highly recommend, he is currently in Irvine, California. Next, he will go to Desert Hot Springs, California, Mount Shasta, California, Eugene, Oregon, Portland, Oregon, Seattle, Washington, yay, Ashland, Oregon, Smithers, BC, Vancouver, BC, and Toronto, Ontario. And you can get tickets at globalascensiontours.com. And and if you have any problems with that, feel free to send me an email, loretta@ReikiOasis.com, and I'll point you in the right direction. So we're having a wonderful talk about Africa and the ancient ruins in Africa, which is really pretty amazing, and gold, the mining of gold. What are some of the most unusual things that you have found in the ruins in South Africa?
That is probably one of the most important questions. Thank you for bringing it up, Loretta.
You're welcome.
And that, I think, really leads us into the next subject matter here, is the tools and artifacts that I've been collecting for the last 10 years. And the tools and artifacts which are just very unique and unusual, that have suddenly become the central point, at the focal point of ancient knowledge, technology, and the fact that the ancient civilizations used sound and resonance as a tool. And the tools, the torus-shaped stones and the cone-shaped tools that I've been collecting, have suddenly become a central attraction by many scientists and research groups around the world, with some phenomenal research coming out and incidents that happen with our toroidal stones, our torus stones, that show us that these are very advanced vortex energy generating technologies that just manifest and create incredibly powerful sound and resonance frequencies, together with the cone-shaped tools that were used and still can be used today in what we would call today Caesar technology, as opposed to laser, which deals with light, or light amplified by stimulated emission of radiation. That's the acronym for, or that's the full definition of laser. Mm-hmm. And Caesar is the same, but using sound as a laser, a focused beam, which has become, obviously, for those that are in the know, a main obsession in the military and the army and the industrial military complex. Caesar technology is the most advanced area of weaponry and scientific exploration. And here we have ancient tools that lie scattered throughout the ruins of southern Africa, and I must add, all other ancient civilizations. Suddenly, with my putting the spotlight on these cone-shaped tools, suddenly we've discovered that cone-shaped tools were used in all other ancient cultures, wherever you may look, from the Egyptians to the ancient English cultures, North Americas, Australia, India, the Mayas, everywhere you go, cone-shaped tools, suddenly it looks as if they've always been there. We've just never seen them. It's like we could not understand that these were powerful tools because they just look so simple. And that's the mind-blowing thing, that we are only really coming to terms with sound and frequency and resonance as a tool today. Although it must be said that there have been many researchers and inventors over the last 150 years that have used sound as a tool of source and power, Nikola Tesla being probably the greatest one of them all. But the fact that we now have a direct link and scientific support research that we're dealing with advanced ancient technology is a huge breakthrough.
You know, when I was in India years ago, you know, I chant and sing, and I'm a musician, and I realized while I was there that the pillars in the places, because we chanted in places, we did it in Egypt also, you can't do it anymore, but were resonant. Like you could bang on them, or you could, they had different tones.
Yes.
And so as we chanted, the place began to sound with us, is what I'm going to say. Yeah. And I had the sense at the time that there was a vortex or a portal being created there. But I've never heard anyone say sound is a tool, and I really love that.
Well, that is so important that you bring that up, because that brings me to the next critical part of our research in South Africa and the stone ruins there. Is shortly after I was exposed to these ruins in 2007, I'd obviously known about them, but I never really paid any attention, because I believed, just like many other people believe, the lies of our historians that kept telling us that these are not important, insignificant, these were just cattle kraal built for cows and migrating tribes, and that there was nothing really to see there. And suddenly I realized that we're dealing with millions of stone circles that have no doors and entrances, which immediately precludes the fact that they were not built for people or animals, and that they were something else. And that led me down a path of research that arrived at sound and resonance, when I realized that the stones used in the stone walls of these ruins have got very high acoustic properties, and they ring like bells. And that suddenly became the focal point of my research, which then led to finding the cone-shaped tools and the Taurus stones, and everything changed. And I realized that we're dealing with sound energy generating devices, and every stone circle is a unique particular shape. And I realized that these stone circles are not just standalone individual structures. They are all connected to each other by these stone walls that look like wires that connect them to each other when you look at them from the air. And I recommend people to go to my website and have a look at some of these photographs to get an idea, or get my book online. And you will see what I mean. It is truly a spectacular situation to see. And also keep in mind that the stone circles of South Africa and Southern Africa are now the largest cluster of ancient ruins anywhere in the world. And this just shows us that Southern Africa was a very active part of the world for thousands and thousands of years. To build 10 million structures or more is not a small feat. This must have taken a long time, over an extended period of time, by a large number of people. And so to come back to the energy aspect of the stone circles, that every stone circle is actually an energy generating device, and is a unique shape because it actually works with sound. Each stone circle represents the sound frequency, or the cymatic pattern, as it's called in sound study, cymatic pattern of the sound frequency of the Earth at that specific point. and then the stones are packed on those cymatic lines, and that amplifies the sound frequency. The moving sound that moves up from the surface of the earth into the stones. Remember, stones are made up of very high content of silica and quartz. These are all stones that have got very high quartzitic content. And the quartz vibrates, and the sound moves through them, and the moving sound creates electromagnetic fields, which create powerful energy fields. And so we're looking at a very large, more than 10 million energy-generating devices that give us hundreds and thousands of megahertz of energy coming out of these stone circles every second of every day.
Oh, that is mind-boggling.
Yeah.
That's
So if we're looking for anyone looking for free energy, this is it. And by the way, this is incidentally what Nikola Tesla did for people that study Tesla's work. That's exactly what he did. Tesla knew that the earth rings like a bell, and he used the sound energy of the earth to generate his free energy device with which he wanted to give the world free energy. And obviously he was stopped by the bankers because giving people free energy is not good for business. So we start seeing the agenda of the elite and the royal bloodlines start for thousands of years, and every time any human comes up with something that's going to benefit society or benefit the people, they get removed from society and replaced by someone that controls that invention for the profit of those who control the printing and the distribution of money. And here we're dealing with ancient technology that can be used for the benefit of humanity, that people like Tesla rediscovered in more recent times. And this is a very, very important moment in our human history, because that then brings us to realizing that we are all enslaved by these royal banking bloodlines that run the world today and control our governments. And you know, people are starting to wake up. We live in an age where information and knowledge can spread very, very quickly. And this is a very exciting time to be alive and realize that we can extricate ourselves from this financial and economic slavery system that we are all born into and shoved into.
Yeah. I was thinking also, you know, Nikola Tesla, of course, you know, used the resonance of planet Earth. And then we have great researchers like Royal Raymond Rife, who also used, you know, his universal microscope to deal with the frequencies of disease. And basically my understanding of looking at his researches and his experiments basically could wipe out disease with sound. And of course, that was a lot of this information, like you say, someone comes up with something and then they disappear, or their information disappears, or something happens to it, right, because of the global elite and what's going on with, well, like you say, it's not good business.
Yeah, it's not good for business. And keep in mind that, you know, our governments are controlled by giant corporations. The biggest of these corporations are the corporations that create money, and people often forget about this. Our central banks, like the Fed in the USA and all the other central banks, from the Bank of England to the South African Reserve Bank, which incidentally is one of the most powerful banks in the world because of all the minerals that go through it. The Reserve Bank of India, of Scotland, of Australia, of every central bank of every country is a private company. They don't belong to the government. They operate outside of the legal system of that country. So you cannot sue the Fed. You cannot take them to court. You can't win that fight. This is a spectacular deception that's been pulled over the eyes, over the people. And most people don't realize it. Most people aren't aware of it. They keep thinking, how come the government cannot get things right? Why is it that there are a never-ending number of problems that we can't solve? And why is our government not actually doing anything to help the people? Because they're not installed and controlled by the people. We think we live in the illusion that our government is there to help us and serve us. No, the governments are imposed and put into power by corporations in a very clandestine way, giving us the illusion that we're the ones that vote them into power and control, when that process is completely and utterly manipulated and controlled to have the outcome that those who control the situation manipulate. and this is why it's a secret vote. If it wasn't a secret vote, then you could go and check that your vote went to the party or the person that you actually voted for, right?
Well, yeah, we kind of ran into that recently here.
Yeah,
in
exactly.
the United States.
You realize that people must realize that our governments are completely and utterly controlled by the central banks and their private owners, which is a small number of people that pretty much run the entire world, and the financial slavery system that's been imposed on each and every one of us. Now, how do we get out of that? It's very simple. And this is why the Ubuntu movement is growing so quickly and providing a lot of joy and allowing people to lose their fear and frustration of our current system. Because most of the people, no matter what country you live in, all of us are born into the slavery system. From the first breath we take to the last breath we breathe out, everything in our lives are controlled by money. And we simply cannot get away from it. People might lie to themselves and say, well, I have free will, I can do what I want. No, you can't. You try and go from one country to another, and you see how difficult it becomes. Try and live in another country. Just try and give up your job or stop doing what you're doing and move to another town and try and survive. It's become very difficult, almost impossible, to do anything without making the financial security.
Right. Yeah. And a lot of people, a lot of my clients and of course my own self, we can take a look at those that have and those that do not. And that gap in there appears to be getting bigger.
Yeah, absolutely.
And those that do not have very low quality of life. They don't have the ability to pursue maybe what they even came to the planet to really do. We call it our destiny or our purpose. Yeah.
Well, we're all born with a number of talents and abilities and skills that we're supposed to use in our lives. Those are our God-given talents that we are born with. And I don't want to sound like a Bible puncher here, but these are actual, real resonance facts that if there are as many skills and talents and passions as there are people in the world, no two people are the same. Everyone is completely unique in their talents, their skills, and what they are passionate about. And it's that passion and those talents and skills that we need to use to benefit everyone in our community and the larger communities. And that's what the Ubuntu movement is all about, is to reminding people about this. But at the same time, to give people a deeper understanding of the financial situation, who controls it, how it's controlled, what the origins of money is. So once people have a deeper understanding, it's a lot easier for them to make sober decisions and the right decisions for the future. So very briefly, for your listeners, money did not evolve out of thousands of years of bartering and trading. Most of us are under a completely false illusion that was given to us by our education system, that money evolved out of thousands of years of bartering and trading and eventually this and that, and it was backed by gold, etc., etc. That is the complete misunderstanding and a misconception. Money was introduced very specifically at a specific point in time, about 6,000 years ago. It could be further back. And the Sumerian texts, once again, give us a very clear breakdown of how this happened. And we read in the Sumerian kings lists that there was a time when, like I mentioned earlier, when kingdom was lowered to earth from heaven, and the first kings were appointed among the people, and these first kings were given fierce weapons and tools with which they could control the people. And this is how they became kings, because if the people didn't listen, they would smite them, or blow them up, or do something to the people. And people started fearing the royalty, because suddenly these kings had all the power and the tools to impose their authority over the people. Otherwise, they would never have remained kings. And these first kings had suddenly had these big temples built for them with technology that I already described, with the toroidal-shaped stones and the cone-shaped tools, which create a situation where you can levitate things with. You can cut stone, you can melt stone, you can soften rock, you can drill holes into stone, you can levitate things, you can do anything you choose with Caesar technology. using sound as a tool. And those people that do research or work in the industrial military complex will know what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. And so these first priest kings became the pretty much the rulers of the world. They lived in these giant temples that were built for them, and they were also the first bankers. They also owned all the land suddenly, right? And people had to work for them and pay them taxes from money that they earned for working the land for the kings, and pay taxes in food or sometimes in money. And then these first priest kings also then started issuing the first forms of money. Their temples became the first banks, and they became the first bankers and issued the first money in the forms of clay tablets, clay Sumerian tablets that became the first forms of money. And the incredible thing, Loretta, is that the banking system today still operates exactly the same way as these first banks in Sumeria worked more than 6,000 years ago. Mm-hmm. Today we print our money and we issue negotiable instruments, checks, bills of exchange, and promissory notes, which are referred to as negotiable instruments. Today they are issued on paper, while 6,000 years ago they were issued on clay. Nothing has changed. It's exactly the same bloody corrupt system of exploitation and enslavement.
You tell. I want you to keep on, but you tell a great story about the $100 bill in one of your shows on Gaia, and I think it's fabulous. By the way.
Yeah, it really is. It just shows you the insanity of this paper money that has absolutely no value except the value that we give it because we believe it allows us to make the world go round, and we use it to make the world go round. So with the Ubuntu movement, we show people very quickly that money does nothing. People do everything. People, we plant the seeds, we grow the food, we solve the mathematical equations and do the science and create and invent and give birth and love, have the capacity for love and friendship. Money does nothing. Money is just a tool to get in the way of people pursuing their passion and achieving their goals. And this is what we need to get rid of. But how you get rid of that is what some people can't imagine. And this is what the Ubuntu movement has done very successfully now over the last 12 years since the idea first emerged in 2005, when I started proposing and promoting a world free of money. Now, I need to qualify very quickly. When you say a world without money, people go into fear mode. They think, a world, a lack. We don't have any money, which means we can't buy stuff and can't have anything because we got no money. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a world in which money has no effect or influence.
And I also understand you're not talking barter.
No, I'm not talking bartering and trading. We're talking about a world in which we all contribute. And this leads to an explosion of scientific brilliance, of inventions, and the creations of people that are actually shared with the community and not hidden by corporations because they want to use it for their own benefit by exploiting the rest of humanity. And selling it to us. So suddenly when inventors in our communities invent something or create a cure for cancer, which we know has been done thousands of times, and create free energy devices, which have been done thousands of times, these are actually used for the benefit of the community and not stolen by a corporation and hidden from sight so they can keep exploiting humanity through their fossil fuel and automotive industry that we're still trapped in today. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so the Ubuntu movement has now grown to, I guess, more than people and supporters in more than 200 countries. And I would really urge your listeners to go online and see what it has led up to. We've gone through 12 years of learning, trials and tribulations, starting many community projects, starting intentional communities, and learning the pitfalls and the hurdles to create such communities, and learning what works and what does not work. Although there are many intentional communities in the world, like Damanhur, and that's just one example, and many others that have been very successful, they have not had an influence on the world around them. And we need to change that. We need to do something that once we've created a community, an Ubuntu contributionist community. Contributionism is the modern word for an ancient philosophy called Ubuntu. Once we've created such a community, it must have an effect on the communities around them. And this is what we finally figured out after being involved in politics and, as I said, walking a long and winding road to where we are today, and realizing and now formulating a strategy which is being, I guess, discovered by many people with great joy and excitement, because they realize that we can get ourselves out of this mess very quickly. It's not going to take centuries. It's not going to take decades. It may not even take years. It may take just a few months. All we got to do is start working together, cooperating and collaborating, knowing that the power always lies with the people.
Yeah, the power does lie with the people. I think we do need to be reminded of that. For the listeners, you can go to ubuntuplanet.org to find out more about Ubuntu. And, of course, you can go to michaeltellinger.com. Very briefly, contributionism. Contributionism is something totally new? It's a question.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, look, people say, oh, it sounds like communism. No, it's unlike any other ism we've ever had, because it actually takes us away from the need for and the use of money. So contributionism is just a modern word I came up with some 12 years ago for people contributing their skills and talents for the benefit of their whole community. So it's a one-to-many exchange. It's not a bartering or a trading or exchange system. It's a system in which we all contribute a little bit of time to our community activities and projects, and the rest of the time we spend on what we love to do. And if you go to ubuntuplanet.org, or also onesmalltown.org, that's probably quicker. Okay. Go to onesmalltown.org and watch the little 5-minute video, which has really become the spearhead and the focal point for the Ubuntu movement worldwide. And all we need to do is find one small town of about 5,000 people, maybe between 5 and 10,000 people, get consensus between the mayor, the council, and the people, and initiate this process. And very quickly, within months, we will have a community that has created so much abundance and prosperity for that community that we can export that abundance and prosperity to others, to other towns, and other towns will follow the same model because they will want to have the same abundance and prosperity as we have. So I believe, and we in the Ubuntu movement believe, that the one small town can change the world, and the one small town will change the world, and is an unstoppable process that once we launch it, will create not just a domino effect, but a quantum domino effect. Mm-hmm. That will cross state lines, it'll cross borders into other countries and cross into other continents, and will become an unstoppable energetic force that will cause thousands upon thousands of towns to do the same, because people everywhere have had enough. We are sick and tired of the exploitation and the abuse of humanity by the elite that just make our lives more and more miserable year in and year out.
Yeah. I'm thinking while you're talking, of course, that, we have touched lightly on the cabal, the corporations, the global elite. And obvious question, I don't think they're pleased with your movement, are they?
Well, I also believe that there are many people that work in the banking industry and in government that are frustrated. They feel trapped. They're good people that went into politics or into banking thinking they're going to help people and they're going to do some good, and then they get stuck and then there's no way out.
Right.
And so it's really those people and the conscious millionaires, people that have made a lot of money, that realize how rotten the system is, how rotten our socioeconomic system is, and they don't know what to do. So hopefully as they find the Ubuntu movement and realize that there is a way out, there is a solution, these conscious millionaires will actually become the foundation for the future prosperity. And you know what, Loretta, the incredible sort of twisted poetic justice is, the incredible thing is that, first of all, the Ubuntu movement does not promote any kind of violence, opposition, or conflict. We're doing all of this with raising the consciousness, letting people cooperate and collaborate, and we're creating a new society without any violence, opposition, or conflict. And even better than that, through a weird, twisted, poetic justice kind of system, we're using the tools of enslavement, which is capitalism and money, and those tools become the tools of our liberation, because while we are creating a platform for a future society where we no longer need money, we actually use money and capitalism to create the most successful model of capitalism and money that has ever existed. This is unbelievable.
This is unbelievable. I have a quick question from a listener, and we got 1 minute left. You know, I know that Corey Good and David Wilcock mentioned you in one of their episodes of Cosmic Disclosure. Do you know if you're working with any ET groups specifically?
No, I'm not working with any ET groups. I'm trying to keep this as terrestrial and as real and as human as possible.
Yay, thank you. And I'm going to encourage my listeners, once again, this is Michael Tellinger, is my guest. This is Loretta Brown, of course. And find out more about Michael Tellinger and the Ubuntu movement at michaeltellinger.com, ubuntuplanet.org, or onesmalltown.org. And please, please come out to see him while he's here in Seattle. I will be there. It will be June 12th, 7 o'clock in the evening at Amazing Grace Center. Michael, it is such a joy and delight to have you on the show. I look forward to meeting you, and be blessed. Thank you so much for the work you're doing on the planet.
Thanks, Loretta. Thank you, Benny. Hope to see you soon.
All right. Bye now.